Well, rugby and mental health has been in the news a lot this week, with the headlines that 62% of retired players have battled some sort of mental health issue since stopping playing. Ed Jackson is with us. Ed, tell us how you're involved, because you're on a board of trustees that's looking into this just now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I had to retire through injury last year, and Restart Rugby, who are the charity arm of the RPA, the Rugby Players Association, they look after all the professional players in England. They looked after me, and as a result, I've done a lot of work with them, and I'm now sat on the board of trustees. And that means that I see all of these cases going through from the other side. And what I was amazed by, I knew it was a thing, but was the amount of mental health cases, depression cases, because it's all confidential, you know, confidential counselling. They're doing some amazing work behind the scenes, but as you said, 63%, and that's just the people who are talking about it. You know, in rugby, in sport, it is a bit of a macho game. I think a lot of the players, after they retire, if they're struggling, they don't necessarily want to talk about it. They don't want to show weakness. You spend your whole career on the pitch trying not to show weakness, and that can be an issue, because the best way to overcome these things is communication, and it is getting better. We are talking about it more and more, but it can keep it, you know, the more we can do, the better.
Ed's been talking about this obviously from an English perspective, but this is a global issue. What's it like in France, where you've played, in South Africa?
It was without a doubt a global issue, Lee. I think, you know, the raising awareness has opened up certain areas maybe a little bit more, with people and players coming to the front a little bit more. But it's an issue facing rugby players and professional athletes. You know, it's not just rugby focused. It's professional athletes coming to the end of their career, possibly struggling with injuries through their career. In France in particular, I know Proval, the French association that looks after the players there, is doing really well. My players in South Africa is having some fantastic work done in terms of enlightening people, allowing them to have a platform to talk on, because that's the thing, you know, rugby players, you sort of want to be this macho bravado on the field, but unfortunately, you know, you're human at the end of the day, and as much as you try to keep that in, that potentially then leads to different problems.
Yeah, and it's, you know, you don't often see players that come out with depression whilst they're playing. We've seen that with Tom James, but you know, I'd say team sport and rugby is especially good in that situation, because you know, you've got your friends around there, you've got your mates to help you get through it, and we've seen that with Tom James. I think it's a lot of it is when you do retire, like you say, Bryan, like that all of a sudden you don't go into to rugby anymore. You don't see these 30 guys that you've grown up with and played rugby with, and you've got to find your own way in the world. And one of the things we've done now at the Cardiff Blues, you see it all over. You see it all over rugby clubs. We set up a former players association for Cardiff and Cardiff Blues, and that's just, it's a way of networking for players. So when they do retire, you know, they don't know what they're going to go into. And that's probably the biggest thing for players, is that what do they do after they've played rugby? You know, because you become slightly institutionalised when you play rugby, because you do the same thing all over again. So we set that up as an avenue for players that possibly don't know what they're going to do when they retire, to come in, to network, to try and find out, and somewhere to chat. And it's very important, and most clubs do that now.
Yeah, and I think they're doing a lot of great work, but sport in general, you know, there's one thing about playing sport, playing rugby, you know, it does come to an end at a young age. And when it does come to an end, it can come to an end quite abruptly. And you don't just lose your job, you lose your career. You lose your livelihood. Often you lose your identity. And there's still, you know, we're not earning millions and millions of pounds. You can't then have that buffer for years. You know, we talk about the people at the top of the Premiership or internationals, but what about all the players playing regional, playing Premiership rugby in Wales or Championship rugby in the UK? They're earning not a huge amount, but they've still committed their lives to something. All of a sudden it gets taken away. You've still got a family. You don't know where you're going to move. You've got to change career, and that can be, you know, a sort of scenario to slip into that depression or to that mental health issue. But you're very right. It's also, team sport is a great environment for communication and helping people through that.
It's about trying to create that team sport when you finish playing rugby as well. So to create that camaraderie outside of rugby.
But Billy, there must be dark days. And maybe Tom James is a good example about depression. But, you know, for someone like yourself who's had a lot of injuries, got 3 broken arms in the space of a year, you know, issues with your knees, there must have been times where you have thought, maybe not depression, maybe not a label, but you've thought, this is tough.
Yeah, 100%. I think the guys here, everything they're talking about is correct. Just from my point of view, something you said there was you lose your identity. I think I learned after finally my 5th surgery that if you hold your identity in rugby and being a rugby player, then I think you're going to hurt yourself once you finish. And I think for me, and it's taken me 1.5 years, 2 years to get out of a slump, is to hold my identity in loving my family and being a good guy. So hopefully I can do that and I can be happy when I'm done playing rugby.
It's just great to hear your thoughts on, collectively on this, and great to hear that rugby is addressing this. And you can see on the screen now, if you have been affected by anything that we've been talking about, don't internalise it. Please get in touch. You can see there it's channel4.com/support, or as Ed was talking about, there are so many different ways that you can voice your thoughts and concerns. So no need to keep it to yourself.